This is Patrick Findaro, Managing Partner at Visa Franchise and Vetted Biz. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about going with a startup, basically starting your own independent business, or buying a franchise. Both of them have pros and cons. We started Visa Franchise 6 years ago, and it was definitely a learning curve at times, but also we came from a very similar industry that made it easier for us to adjust and really start having cash come in from day one. Where a franchise model, you already have a proven model where people have made a lot of mistakes before you, and you have a lot better idea of how the financials will be for you based on the historics of another 10, 100,000 franchisees that have come before you. So real quick, for a franchise, what are some of the pros? You have initial and ongoing support. So that's in terms of finding the location, doing a demographic study, seeing if where you want to open up the business makes the most sense based on where the most successful franchisees have open locations. Are the demographics similar? You have that initial support on opening the business, as well as ongoing support in terms of reaching out to the other franchisees, reaching out to the franchisor for marketing support, lead generation, helping you with the product. Oftentimes franchisors are negotiating with vendors. So there's a lot of pros to going with the franchise system, as well as generally it's an established brand, especially that franchise already has some recognition in the market that you plan to open in. Now, there's some costs associated with opening a franchise. It can be costly when you add in the franchise fee, including the royalties needed to run the business. Royalties really vary. It can range anywhere from 4% all the way up to 15% for businesses that you're really outsourcing a whole function of your business. We've seen royalties in the teens as a percentage of your sales, your revenue. And also, if you're more independent, you want flexibility, franchising might not be the right fit for you. So you've always dreamed of having a restaurant, and you love to incorporate the cooking that you used to have as a child with your grandmother. You can't do that for 90% plus of food franchises. It's really, they have their product mastered, and they have their own executive chef, and they're rolling out. And yes, you can give the franchisor feedback, but it's really what they decide to do. You open up a Chick-fil-A franchise, you're not going to start selling hamburgers there. You open up a Starbucks, you can't sell any type of coffee through a Starbucks licensee. With a franchise also, it can take some time until you break even and really start making revenue. So it's really important to understand talking to the franchisor and talking to franchisees. Are you expected to break revenue in the first month, 3 months, 6 months? Is this going to drag all the way out to 12 months? Understand when franchisees pass the break-even point and start making money. It's really important for you to understand that. And for franchising, generally you're doing it full time, whereas a startup, you might be able to do it on the side so you still have that cash flow coming in from your day job. Some pros with a startup. The sky's the limit. You know, a lot of these huge tech conglomerates were startups. So whether it was Google or Apple starting in a garage and then producing laptops, iPhones, and becoming the powerhouse that they are today, they started very humbly in a garage. So really with a startup, the sky is the limit. And generally you can grow very fast or fall and close the business pretty soon. Also, another benefit of a startup is the wide range of industries. Franchising can be limited to service-based businesses, food and beverage, hospitality, education. There's about 14 industries that are well suited for franchising. Double that for startups. So it's really the sky is the limit in terms of industries that you do, revenue that you hit, and it's a lot more flexible than a franchise. However, it's not proven. A franchise, if you go with the right one, and in Vetted Biz we have over 1,800 as of May 2021, you can see the historic failure rate of Small Business Administration loans that went to that franchise, how many they're opening, how many they're closing. So some of the cons of a startup is you don't have that benchmark in terms of how other franchisees have done. Also, a lot of businesses fail in the United States. So over a 5-year period, 50% of businesses fail that have employees. When you bring that out to 10 years, it's up to 70% of businesses fail that have employees. So it's going to take a lot more upfront work on your end. And, in terms of a startup and talking from experience, we had a lot of industry relationships. We really knew what we were doing in terms of starting Visa franchise because we had experience with investor visas, experience in the franchising market. So we really knew the industry before we started our own startup, and that allowed us to really fast track our growth process and hit $1 million plus in revenue in under 4 years. Where if you are new to the United States, new to an industry, it could take 5+ years to pass that $1 million mark and really hit your stride.